The alien ship drifted in the dark sea of stars. Inside it, Captain Rhaegar stood still, staring at the glowing screens. His crew had detected a strange signal from the blue planet ahead. The world was not marked in their maps. The Empire had ignored it for centuries, thinking it was only another silent rock circling a yellow sun. But the signal was different. It was loud, messy, filled with voices, songs, and pictures. It was chaos, but it was alive. Rhaegar narrowed his 4 black eyes. He was old enough to know the danger of curiosity. Many civilizations had burned themselves by chasing unknown fire. Yet, something in that noise pulled at his mind. The crew waited for his command. Their claws clicked on the deck, nervous, as if they already felt the weight of something unseen. Rhaegar finally spoke. "Approach, but stay hidden. No contact, no message. We only watch." The ship slid closer to the blue planet. Oceans spread below like liquid mirrors. Clouds twisted in white swirls. Green lands rose between them, glowing with light from countless cities. The crew whispered in their own language. The Empire had destroyed worlds for less. Yet here was a young species burning with energy, filling the night with fire. Rhaegar felt the pull again, stronger this time. The noise from the planet was growing clearer, and he ordered the translators to filter it. Slowly, the sounds became words, and the words became stories. On the screen appeared moving pictures. Humans, as they called themselves, spoke, fought, sang, and laughed. They told tales of heroes, of wars, of love, of dreams. The crew leaned forward, unable to look away. This was not simple communication. This was passion. It was raw, wild, and strange. One soldier hissed, saying these creatures were primitive. Another argued, saying their spirit was dangerous. Rhaegar kept watching in silence. Then something happened. The screen showed a human face, close and unguarded. A child was speaking in a simple recording. The child looked directly into the camera, smiling with open eyes. No fear, no mask, only innocence. That single image cut through the alien crew like a blade. Some staggered back, their bodies shivering. One warrior dropped his weapon as if struck by lightning. Another fell to his knees, claws digging into the floor. Rhaegar's chest tightened. His mind screamed. It was not just a face. It was something deeper, something older than language. It was humanity itself, raw and untamed. The frenzy began slowly. A whisper at first, then a roar. The crew shouted in their tongue, claws slashing the air. Their hearts pounded with fire they did not understand. The soldiers who had fought endless wars now felt weakness, as if the human child's smile had pierced their armor. Some cried out in rage, others in fear, and still others in worship. The ship's walls shook as if the storm had entered with them. Rhaegar gripped the edge of the console, trying to breathe. He had seen empires fall, kings beg, and warriors break, but never had a single image done this. The human child kept smiling on the screen. A simple smile, nothing more. Yet for the aliens it was too much. Their instincts twisted, their minds cracked open. The crew fought one another without reason. Some wanted to destroy the planet at once. Others wanted to kneel before it. Weapons were drawn, claws ripped at armor, and voices filled the chamber with chaos. Rhaegar shouted, but his words drowned in the storm. He forced his mind to focus. He was captain, and if he lost control now, the ship would burn before the planet even noticed. He hit the emergency seal, closing the chamber. The screen went dark, but the image stayed in his mind. That smile, that glimpse of humanity, had already entered his soul. He did not know if it was power or poison, but it was alive, and it was stronger than any empire he had ever served. Silence fell after the struggle. Bodies lay on the floor, breathing hard. Eyes glowed with fever. Some trembled, some laughed without reason, some stared blankly at the walls. Rhaegar stood among them, shaking but unbroken. He knew one truth now. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was something else, something that could reach across the void with only a smile and drive warriors into madness. And this was only the beginning. Captain Rhaegar did not sleep that cycle. The memory of the human child's smile would not leave him. It was burned into his thoughts like a brand of fire. Even with the screens shut down and the chambers locked, he felt the image follow him. The crew was restless. They whispered in dark corners, their bodies twitching, eyes filled with hunger and confusion. Some avoided him, some stared at him with open challenge. Discipline was cracking, and he knew why. The glimpse of humanity had opened something inside them that could not be closed again. He walked the halls of the ship, claws clicking against metal, and everywhere he passed he saw signs of the madness. 2 soldiers had carved strange shapes into the walls. Another group sat in silence, repeating the sound of human laughter they had heard earlier. Their throats were not made for that sound, but they forced it until blood leaked from their mouths. Rhaegar ordered them to stop, but they did not listen. He struck one with the weight of command, and only then did they break from the trance. Their eyes, however, still burned with that same fire. The ship was no longer under control. Rhaegar could feel it. The frenzy was spreading like a disease. He called a meeting of the senior officers, hoping to bring order. They gathered around the central table, claws restless, voices shaking. Rhaegar told them the truth. This planet was dangerous, not because of weapons or machines, but because of spirit. Humanity's raw spirit had infected them, and if they did not act, the ship would tear itself apart. One officer slammed his fist on the table. He shouted that they must destroy the planet now, before the infection spread further. Another officer argued with equal fury, saying they must kneel before this species, for it was greater than any empire. The chamber broke into chaos once more, voices rising into screams. Rhaegar roared for silence, his voice deep and sharp like a blade. The crew froze, but only for a moment. Then the arguing began again, softer but unending. Rhaegar realized the truth. Words would not save them. He dismissed the council and returned to the command deck alone. From there, he watched the planet spin slowly below. Lights covered its surface like burning embers. He imagined billions of human eyes staring upward, unknowing of the storm they had created. His claws tightened on the railing. If a single smile could shatter his ship, what would happen if they saw more? What if they saw all of humanity, not just a glimpse? He ordered the sensors to collect more signals. Despite the danger, he had to know. Streams of images, sounds, and stories poured in. Human music, wild and powerful, shook the walls. Human battles, bloody and fierce, filled the screens. Human love, soft and deep, burned brighter than stars. Each new vision hit the crew like waves. Some wept, some screamed, some fell silent with wide eyes. Rhaegar forced himself to watch. He had seen many species, but none had this effect. None could cut into the mind with such raw power. The frenzy grew worse. In the lower decks, fights broke out. Soldiers clawed one another in madness. Blood stained the halls. Some shouted that they were now human, others shouted that humans must be destroyed. The sound of war echoed through the ship, not from the enemy, but from within. Rhaegar moved through the chaos, striking down those who came at him, but even he could feel the pull. He felt his chest tighten whenever the human faces appeared on the screens. He felt his mind tremble at the sound of their voices. It was not just his crew. It was him too. At last, he sealed the ship systems, cutting the crew from the human signals. The screens went black again. The ship became silent except for the heavy sound of breathing. He leaned against the console, trying to calm his racing heart. But silence did not save them. The frenzy was already inside. The crew twitched and growled, their claws shaking, their eyes glowing with strange fire. Rhaegar knew that he could not hold them for long. In that moment, he asked himself a question he had never asked before. What was humanity? Was it only another young race, still climbing, still fighting, still dreaming? Or was it something greater? Something older than all empires, something that could reach across the stars with a single smile and shake the soul of warriors? He did not know, but he knew one thing. The Empire could not be allowed to find out. If his ship returned with this story, the galaxy would burn. Rhaegar stood tall. His choice was clear. He would not tell the Empire. He would bury the truth, even if it meant death. But as he prepared to give the order, he heard a sound that froze his blood. Somewhere deep in the ship, through sealed walls and locked doors, came the faint sound of human laughter. It was impossible. The signals were cut, the screens were dead. Yet the sound was there, echoing through the halls. The crew heard it too. Their eyes widened. Their frenzy returned with greater fire than before. Rhaegar felt his claws tremble as the laughter grew louder, as if the humans themselves had already entered his ship without ever leaving their world. The captain realized, with dread, that there was no escape. Humanity had already touched them, and the infection was spreading faster than light. The laughter echoed through the ship like a living shadow. It slid through sealed doors, crawled along the walls, and settled into every corner of the vessel. Captain Rhaegar gritted his teeth, claws pressing deep into the metal of the console. This was not possible. The signal had been cut, every system locked. Yet the sound was there, soft at first, then louder, as if the very hull carried it. His crew shivered, their bodies trembling with hunger and rage. The frenzy was no longer something they had seen. It had become something they were feeling, even breathing. A soldier stumbled toward Rhaegar, eyes wide, body shaking. His voice was broken, repeating the words he had heard in the human recordings. "We are human." Then he lunged with a blade, screaming like a beast. Rhaegar struck him down in a single blow, but others followed. Dozens of his warriors, once loyal, now charged without thought. They clawed at one another, screaming human words they did not understand, as if possessed. The deck became a storm of blood and fury. Rhaegar fought through them, his body moving with the strength of command, but his heart was breaking. These were his soldiers, his brothers in war, yet the glimpse of humanity had shattered them beyond repair. He knew they could not be saved. Still, he did not stop. He pushed forward, step by step, until he reached the central control chamber. There he sealed himself inside, leaving the madness behind the thick doors. The screams and laughter echoed faintly, but he forced his mind to stay steady. He activated the ship's star maps, staring at the Empire's borders. If the fleet learned of this planet, if they witnessed what humanity could do with a single smile, the galaxy would never be the same. Some empires would worship. Others would destroy. Wars would spread across 1,000 worlds, and all of it because of one small species still tied to its homeworld. Rhaegar whispered to himself. They must be hidden. They must be left alone. Yet even as he spoke, the screens flickered. Without his command, images of Earth returned. This time it was not war, not battles, not heroes. It was simple things. A mother holding a child. A group of humans sitting together, laughing around a fire. A hand reaching out to help another. These visions struck deeper than any weapon. Rhaegar felt his knees weaken. The frenzy was trying to claim him too. He slammed his claws into the console, trying to shut the system down. Sparks flew, alarms rang, but the images did not vanish. They grew brighter, filling the chamber with light. His breathing quickened. He saw not weakness, not danger, but something strange and powerful. A unity that he had never seen in any empire. A force that came not from claws or blades, but from connection. He hated it. He feared it. Yet a small part of him admired it. Suddenly the chamber door shook. The crew was breaking through. Their frenzy gave them strength beyond reason. Metal screeched, claws pounded, voices cried out. Rhaegar knew they would come for him, not as soldiers but as animals. He had one choice left. He opened the weapon controls. His claws hovered above the command that would fire the ship's cannons at the planet. If he destroyed Earth now, humanity's infection would die with it. His empire would be safe. The galaxy would remain blind to this dangerous species. But his claws froze. His eyes returned to the screen. The human child's smile appeared again, the same one that had started everything. That innocent face looked at him as if asking a question he could not answer. His heart pounded. He could destroy them, but could he erase them? Could he erase a species that had power beyond understanding? His breath slowed, and his claws shook violently. The door finally broke open. Frenzied soldiers poured into the chamber, eyes wild, claws bloody. They did not see him as their captain anymore. They saw him as an enemy standing between them and humanity. Rhaegar roared, his body exploding into motion. He struck down the first wave, blades cutting through armor, but they kept coming. He fought like a storm, but his strength was not endless. Claws slashed his side, blood spilled onto the floor, and still he fought. In the chaos, he made his choice. He would not destroy Earth. He would not tell the Empire either. He would bury the truth, even if it meant his ship would never return. With his last strength, he slammed the emergency core command. The ship's engines began to overload, red warnings flashing across the chamber. The soldiers froze for a moment, their frenzy breaking into confusion. Rhaegar's voice thundered above the alarms. "This truth dies with us." The ship shook as the overload began. The frenzy raged, the crew screamed, and the laughter of humanity still echoed in the walls. Rhaegar stood tall, blood dripping, eyes locked on the human smile glowing on the screen. He did not know if he was saving the galaxy or damning it, but he knew one thing. Humanity had changed him forever. The engines roared as the ship's core moved toward overload. Red lights flashed across every wall, and alarms screamed like dying beasts. Captain Rhaegar stood in the center of the control chamber, claws dripping with blood, body shaking but unbroken. Around him, the frenzied soldiers staggered back in confusion. They had expected to tear him apart. Instead, they were now facing the death of the entire ship. Some roared in anger, rushing him again, but Rhaegar struck with a force born of desperation. He cut them down, each blow fueled not by survival but by duty. He knew his end was already sealed. The overload would consume them all, leaving nothing but scattered ash in space. That was his plan. If humanity's power could not be understood, then it had to be hidden. No one in the Empire would ever know what had been found here. But fate did not bend so easily. As the chamber shook, the screens lit up once more without his command. The human child's smile appeared again, but now the image flickered. Behind the child came other human faces, soldiers marching, families gathering, crowds shouting in unity. It was as if humanity itself had sensed their watchers and was now showing more. Rhaegar froze, breath caught in his throat. The frenzy in his crew returned at once, fiercer than before. They screamed, clawed at each other, some even clawing at their own flesh as if trying to tear out the madness. The overload continued to build, but then the impossible happened. The ship systems, which Rhaegar had locked, suddenly changed course. The engines stabilized, as if an unseen hand had seized control. Rhaegar slammed the controls, trying to force the sequence back into overload, but his commands were denied. A calm voice whispered from the speakers, "Not alien, not machine, but human. Do not be afraid." Rhaegar's blood ran cold. The voice was soft, steady, and filled with strange warmth. It was a human voice. Yet no human had touched their systems, no human even knew they were here. Still, the word spread through every corridor, and the crew froze where they stood. Their frenzy did not vanish, but it shifted, turning from chaos to silence. They listened, their eyes wide, their bodies trembling. Again the voice spoke. "We see you." Rhaegar's claws dug deep into the console. This was impossible. Could humanity truly sense them? Could they reach across the void without ships, without machines, only with will? His heart thundered with dread. He had thought to hide humanity, to bury them before the Empire could see. But now he feared it was too late. Humanity had already found them. The ship shook violently. Not from the overload, but from outside. A pull, like a hand dragging them down. Rhaegar staggered to the window. The blue planet below glowed brighter than ever, its oceans shimmering, its cities alive with light. His ship was being drawn closer, not by gravity alone, but by something greater. He felt the weight of unseen eyes watching him. He felt the pressure of a power that should not belong to such a young species. The crew cried out in terror. Some fell to their knees, worshipping the unseen force. Others screamed, begging for release. The frenzy turned to submission, as if the entire ship had become prey under a predator's gaze. Rhaegar alone forced himself to stand. He raised his voice, trying to resist the pull. "We are not yours. We will not bow." But even as he spoke, he knew the lie in his words. His claws trembled, his chest ached. The child's smile returned on the screen, brighter than before, filling the chamber with light. For a heartbeat, Rhaegar felt calm. Not fear, not rage, only calm. He saw not an enemy, but something beyond measure. Something that could destroy or save, with only a choice. The pull grew stronger. The ship screamed as its metal body resisted. Rhaegar's crew fell to the floor, some unconscious, some whispering human words they did not understand. The captain gritted his teeth, refusing to collapse. If humanity wanted them, they would not take him crawling. He would meet them standing. Then, as sudden as it began, the pull stopped. Silence fell. The ship drifted once more in the emptiness of space. The screens went black. The human voice was gone. The frenzy in his crew eased, though their eyes still burned with the strange fire. Rhaegar stood alone, chest heaving. Humanity had spared them. For now. But he knew this was not mercy. It was a warning. They had been seen. They had been touched. The Empire would never be ready for this truth. And Rhaegar realized, with cold certainty, that he could never escape what he had felt. The glimpse of humanity would haunt him forever, and the storm had only begun. The weight of unseen eyes lingered even after the pull stopped. The ship floated in silence, drifting above the blue planet. The crew lay scattered across the deck, weak and trembling. Some whispered, some stared blankly, others still clutched their claws to their chests as if trying to contain a fire that refused to die. Captain Rhaegar stood in the center, his breathing slow, his body heavy, his mind torn between fear and awe. Humanity had touched them without lifting a single weapon. The control screens were dark now, but the memory of the human voice still echoed inside his skull. We see you. It was more than a warning. It was proof that this young species had power that reached beyond machines, beyond distance, beyond reason. Rhaegar's claws trembled as he thought of the Empire. If they knew of this, they would never leave Earth alone. The Empire would send fleets, armies, and fire. They would either conquer humanity or be consumed by it. Either way, the galaxy would change forever. He could not allow it. The crew began to stir, their frenzy not gone but dulled, like embers waiting for new air. One of his lieutenants crawled to his knees and hissed, "Captain, we must tell the Empire. They must know what we have seen. We cannot face this alone." His voice shook, his eyes wide, almost pleading. Rhaegar looked down at him and saw the madness still burning inside. The lieutenant was not speaking with reason. He was speaking with obsession. He wanted to spread the infection, to share the glimpse of humanity with all. Rhaegar's chest tightened. He thought of the child's smile. That innocent face had nearly broken his warriors, had nearly broken him. If the Empire's rulers saw it, what would happen? Would they fall into frenzy like his crew, or would they unleash destruction out of fear? Rhaegar already knew the answer. The Empire destroyed anything it could not control. Humanity would not be spared. He made his decision. They would not return. Not to the Empire, not to anyone. This truth would die here, locked within this ship, hidden in the silence of space. But his crew would not agree. Already he saw the fire in their eyes. Already he heard whispers spreading through the halls. Some wanted to kneel before humanity. Others wanted to fight it. None would accept silence. Rhaegar stood tall and roared across the chamber, his voice drowning the whispers. This planet is off limits. No signal, no message, no return. If you speak of it, you doom the galaxy. His words thundered, shaking the soldiers awake. For a brief moment, their eyes met his with clarity. Then the frenzy returned, and the chamber filled with shouts. Some cursed him, others praised him, but none obeyed. The captain knew then that his greatest battle was not against humanity. It was against his own crew. They had already been claimed by the glimpse. Their loyalty was gone, their discipline shattered. If he did not act, they would steal the ship and carry the infection back to the Empire themselves. He could not let that happen. He walked to the command console, every step heavy with resolve. His claws hovered over the controls. He would send the ship into exile, away from the Empire's borders, into the dark where no one would ever find them. Perhaps they would drift forever, a ghost ship lost in the void. Perhaps they would burn in a star. It did not matter. As long as the truth of humanity remained hidden, his sacrifice would be worth it. But before he could act, a soldier leapt at him, claws slashing. Rhaegar spun and struck, throwing the body across the chamber. Another attacked, then another. The frenzy had turned to rebellion. They no longer saw him as captain. They saw him as a jailer keeping them from their new obsession. The deck erupted into war once again. Rhaegar fought with every ounce of strength, his blade flashing, his roars echoing. But as the blood spilled and the screams rose, he felt the truth settle cold inside him. He could not save them. The frenzy would not fade. The glimpse of humanity had already claimed their souls. He was fighting corpses that had not yet fallen. Still, he fought on, not for them but for the galaxy. His mind locked on one thought: humanity must remain hidden. As the battle raged, he slammed a hidden command into the console. The ship's coordinates shifted. Their engines roared. They were no longer pointed toward the Empire. They were aimed into the dark, away from all stars, into exile. The crew did not notice at first. They were too lost in frenzy, too lost in blood. But Rhaegar knew. They would never return home. The Empire would never know. Humanity's secret would remain safe. Or so he believed. As he leaned against the console, claws dripping, chest burning with pain, the screen flickered one last time. The child's smile returned, soft and bright, filling the chamber. But this time, the child spoke. Not a whisper, not an echo, words, clear and direct. "We will find you." The screen went black, leaving only silence. Rhaegar froze. His crew froze. Every heart pounded with the same dread. Humanity had spoken to them, not across machines, but across existence itself. They had not escaped. They had only delayed the storm. The ship drifted into the dark between stars. No Empire patrols would ever find them here. Captain Rhaegar had forced the vessel into exile, far from borders, far from war, far from home. Yet the silence was not peace. The crew remained broken. Some sat in corners whispering human words. Others carved strange shapes into the walls, the same shapes humans had drawn in their pictures. The frenzy was quieter now, but it was not gone. It lived inside them like a hidden fire. Rhaegar sat alone in the command chamber, his body scarred, his armor cracked. The child's voice still echoed in his head. "We will find you." He did not know if it was a threat, a promise, or something in between. All he knew was that it was real. Humanity had reached them without ships, without weapons, without leaving their own world. That power was beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Days passed. The crew grew weaker, some falling into endless sleep, others lost in madness. Rhaegar kept them alive, but only barely. He rationed food, locked weapons, and silenced the most dangerous. Yet he knew he was not saving them. He was only delaying the end. The glimpse of humanity had already claimed their souls. One cycle, as Rhaegar checked the star maps, the screens flickered again. His claws froze. He had cut all signals, destroyed all receivers, burned every channel. But the screens lit anyway. And there, in the silence of deep space, the human child appeared once more. The same smile, the same eyes, unchanged. Behind the child came faces, thousands this time. Men and women, young and old, soldiers and dreamers, all looking at him. They were not afraid. They were not angry. They were simply watching. Rhaegar felt his chest tighten. His claws trembled. The frenzy stirred in the crew. They rose to their feet, their eyes glowing again, their voices shaking. Some wept, some laughed, some fell to their knees. The chamber filled with whispers. "They see us. They see us." Then the child spoke again, soft and calm. "You cannot hide." Rhaegar roared in defiance, his voice breaking the whispers. "We will not be yours. We are not prey." His words thundered through the chamber, but deep inside he knew they were hollow. He had seen his warriors, proud and unbroken, fall to pieces under a single human smile. He had seen his ship nearly tear itself apart over voices and pictures. Humanity had no weapons here, yet they had already won. The lights in the chamber dimmed. The human faces faded, but the voice remained, a whisper that slid into every mind. Not prey. Not enemies. Witnesses. Rhaegar's breath caught. Witnesses. The word burned with meaning he did not understand. Did humanity see them only as watchers? Or as proof? Proof that their reach already stretched beyond their small blue world? The voice faded. The screens went dark again. Silence returned, but it was not the same silence. It was heavy, filled with unseen weight. Rhaegar looked at his crew. They stared back at him with haunted eyes, no longer screaming, no longer frenzied. Instead, they looked lost, like children waking from a nightmare they could not escape. He turned to the window. The stars stretched endless before him, cold and empty. Yet he no longer believed in that emptiness. Somewhere, far behind, on a small blue planet, humanity had smiled. And that smile had reached him across the void, had broken his soldiers, had shaken his soul. No empire, no fleet, no warlord had ever done that. For the first time in his long life, Captain Rhaegar felt fear not of death, but of what was coming. Humanity was still young, still climbing, still bound to their single world. But already they had power that no empire could match. Already they could reach across stars with nothing but spirit. What would happen when they left their planet? When they carried that fire into the galaxy? He closed his eyes, whispering into the silence. The galaxy is not ready. No one answered. The crew lay scattered, the ship adrift. Rhaegar knew their exile would end one day. Either they would die in the void, or the Empire would stumble across their wreck. And when that day came, someone would find the records. Someone would see the human smile. And then, the storm would break. Rhaegar opened his eyes one last time. The stars burned cold above him. But in his mind, brighter than all stars, burned the glimpse of humanity. A smile, a voice, a promise. *, we will find you. *.